Hi there, I'm Sean Dillman. In this video, I'll be reviewing Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'll be reviewing both the paperback version and the Audible version. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Okay, so to get started, Atomic Habits is a New York Times bestseller that has now sold over 2 million copies. As the title suggests, this book is about habits, and the word atomic is actually the word that does a lot of the work here to explain what is unique and powerful about this book. So the word atomic, essentially, if you think about atomic power, atomic energy, it means that there's a great potential there for power. But atomic also means something that's very small, such as the atoms that make up a molecule. So within the title, Atomic Habits, the idea is that small changes added up over time can make a very big difference. And this can either be a positive or a negative. If you build up positive habits over a very long period of time, you're ultimately going to have a positive result. Likewise, if you build up negative habits over a long period of time, you're going to have a negative result. So that's something that the author is very clear about throughout this book, that something like a habit is neither good nor bad in and of itself, and it depends on what you do with it. So a lot of this book looks at how do we get the most out of good habits and how do we do things that stop us from having bad habits. So that is basically the purpose of this book. As far as the audience goes, this book is basically targeted at anyone who wants to build up better habits around making money or having better health or having better relationships, or also breaking bad habits in relation to any of those things. So really, this book is not for anybody in particular. Anybody could read this book, and I think that they would get some good information from it. As far as the structure goes, this book is made up of 20 chapters that appear over 6 parts. The first part basically sets up the book and explains about the next 4 parts that are going to be coming. And then the last part is an advanced section which tells you about little extra tips and tricks that you can use to get the most out of this. So if you use my below link to view this book on Amazon and click here where it says look inside, you can actually preview the first 28 pages of the book, including the table of contents. You'll see this first section called the fundamentals, which is what I mentioned. This section sets up the rest of the book. And then you see the next 4 sections. The first is called Make It Obvious. The second is called Make It Attractive. The third is called Make It Easy. And the fourth is called Make It Satisfying. This book also has a really comprehensive appendix which suggests further reading that you can look into, different scenarios in which the lessons of this book can be applied, acknowledgements, notes on all of the 264 references that appear throughout this book, and an index so that you can easily find things that you're looking for if you find that you're using this book as a reference material and you want to look back at it. And the book actually starts with an introduction that is very interesting and provides backstory about the author, and it explains about the journey that led him to writing this book in the first place. So in general, I think that the structure of this book is really well done. It makes a lot of sense. It's very easy to use, either if you want to read it front to back, or if you later want to come back to it and jump to a specific part. Or even if you don't want to read it from start to finish and you know what you're interested in already, you can just get into this book and find the section that you're looking for. When it comes to the things that I like about this book, I'm actually not really even sure where to start. In general, I think that it's actually a fantastic book, and I actually read it 2 times in preparation of this review. I think that it is extremely well written, it's very clear, it's very practical. I really enjoy the way that James Clear writes in this book. He comes across as being very humble, very thoughtful, a really giving kind of guy that just wants to get this great information out there. He mentions all of the different people that he's drawn inspiration from or whose lessons that he's building on, and he is very deferential to them and says, you know, my lessons and my ideas are just coming from the work that's come before me. So I really enjoy seeing that, and I think that it makes a lot of sense. As far as the content that is being provided in this book, I really enjoy how each section sort of builds upon the one that comes before it, and he doesn't really engage in any kind of repetition where he's just saying things that he's already said before. Each section is really concise in the way that it's written, but it provides the information that you need for that section, and there is no repetition of things that he said before. So I really applaud him for doing that. This book, if you look at the appendix and if you look at the notes, it's very clear how well thought out this book is and how much effort has gone into this. So I think that that's a really fantastic thing. And actually, I'm glad that it has such a cool cover. I don't know if you can see how it's kind of this bronze gold kind of foil looking, metallic thing going on, but it actually really kind of deserves to have a great cover because it actually has a really good content. Moving over to the Audible version for a moment, I really enjoy hearing James Clear narrate this book in his own voice. It's always great to be able to get it directly from the author so that you can really kind of get a sense of who they are and where they're coming from. And something I noticed in the Audible version is that, of course, you don't have the pictures, you don't have the diagrams that you're going to have in the hard copy. And every time you encounter one of those diagrams or one of those sections, he gives you a reference to the Atomic Habits website and says, go to this section of the website and you can see the diagram. At no point did I find that the Audible version was missing anything that was in the hardcover. And on the contrary, I also found that the Audible version didn't have anything extra that wasn't in the hardcover. So you can basically go either way with this book. If you like the hardcover, that's great. If you like the Audible version, I love listening to audiobooks. I was actually in the hospital getting a procedure done when I was listening to this book for the first time. And I really found it to be a great thing to be able to listen to it while I was, sitting and waiting for an x-ray or waiting to see a doctor or, in a hospital bed and not as easily able to move around and do things. So I found it very helpful to have the Audible version in addition to the paperback version. And finally, if you're curious about the timing, it takes about 5 hours and 35 minutes to finish this book on 1 time speed. So that's about 2 hours and 47 minutes on 2 time speed. Okay, returning to the paperback, as I was just mentioning, there's all kinds of great diagrams and tables in this book. If you want to use my below link to go back to this book on Amazon, you can look at the preview and see that there's all kinds of diagrams that kind of help you understand about the concept of atomic habits, about making small changes over time, how they can benefit you or how they can be a detriment if they're bad habits. A picture can be worth 1,000 words, and I think that James Clear used pictures when it was appropriate, but he didn't overdo it. The diagrams that he used were very well placed and they made a lot of sense. Take a look at those images and judge for yourself, but I found them to be very helpful. Okay, so finally, to finish up with the things that I like about this book, as James Clear says, he calls this a step-by-step plan for building better habits. He calls it an operating manual, and I think that those things are really true. He provides very clear guidance on how to put the principles in place in real life. That's mostly what appears in sections 2, 3, 4, and 5, those different laws that you saw earlier. And he really sticks by that the whole time. This book doesn't go off course. He doesn't talk about other things. He doesn't fail to deliver on his promises. He really shows you the systems that he's using. And he uses all kinds of practical examples that I'm sure you would be able to connect with and that would make sense for you. I really appreciate how fair James Clear is in his assessment of his system. At one point, he says, there is no one right way to create better habits. At various times in the book, he calls habits a double-edged sword. He says that they are not good or bad in and of themselves, and that they are only good if they produce positive results or bad if they produce negative results. And surprisingly, at the end of the book, he even talks about times in which even good habits can produce bad results, such as if they make us too stagnant, or if they cause us to stop growing, and if they stop doing what they were intended to do in the first place. So that was something I found to be surprising at the end of the book, but it also really drove home for me how fair James Clear is being. And that's something that I really like to see from an author, so that I know that they are open-minded, so that I know that they are not saying, my way of doing things is the one and only way to do it. He's saying that he has had success with his techniques and he wants to share that with us, but he's not saying that these are some kind of immutable truths or that there's a guarantee here. He's also really open about acknowledging that putting these principles in place takes hard work. It takes determination. It's not just as simple as snapping your fingers. But at least he's giving us his blueprint and his techniques for doing that. And that's really what Atomic Habits is all about. All right, now to discuss the things that I didn't like about Atomic Habits. I don't really have too much to say. I suppose the worst thing that I could say is that at times James Clear was a little bit salesy. I wouldn't say that he was very salesy, but he mentions, why don't you check out my other work that I'm doing, or come to my website and sign up for my newsletter. It's not really a big deal though, because in my view, he actually has his heart in the right place, and he's not doing it in a way that is too salesy. I actually did sign up for his newsletter, and the very first thing that it told me when I received it is it said, "You are receiving this newsletter because you signed up for it, and if you at any point don't want to receive it, please let us know and we'll stop sending it to you." And then it got into the body of the email. So that kind of thing, I was thinking, wow, this guy is a class act, and that's really, a good thing to put right up front. So even though I'm saying it's a complaint, I don't think that it was really a big deal. I suppose, though, I would say that I didn't like how some of the reference materials that are included with the book, or some of the reference materials that he mentions in the Audible version, if you want to get those, you actually do need to provide your email address, and you do need to sign up so that he'll send them to you. I found that to be a little bit of a bait and switch, that, if I go to the website, I would expect that I could just, download the reference materials, and I shouldn't need to give you my email address or anything. But again, it wasn't a big deal. I found the emails to be very unobtrusive. I actually enjoyed the contents of the emails, and of course I was free to unsubscribe at any time. So not really a big deal. So aside from that, I don't actually have any complaints about the book. I read it twice. I've already started to implement some of its principles in my own life. It makes a ton of sense. There are all kinds of great reference materials that I mentioned that you can use. There is a reference guide with respect to the approach that he's suggesting that you take to build good habits, and as well to break bad ones. He provides an agenda that you can use if you want to track your habits. Again, to go back to the salesy thing, he does try to sell you this kind of custom journal that's got his logo on it, and you can buy it from his website. But at the same time, the journal is probably one of a kind as far as the way the pages are set up, and the chart, and the tracker for the habits. You probably can't just buy that anywhere. So if that's something that he's produced and he's selling that through his website, I can't fault him for that. So I'm not going to say that that's something that I don't like about the book, or the whole package that James Clear is presenting. So on that note, I would say that my conclusion is that I very much recommend this book. I think that it is fantastic. I think it makes a ton of sense. I think it's extremely well written, very well thought out. The principles that are discussed inside make a lot of sense to me. I think that they would make a lot of sense to most people. James Clear takes a very balanced approach, a very thoughtful approach. If you want to build good habits, here's how you do it. If you want to disrupt bad habits, or stop having bad habits, here's how you do it. If you want to become something, don't worry about the results. Worry about your processes. Worry about who you want to be, not what goal you want to achieve. So again, this isn't something that you can just snap your fingers and implement instantaneously. But the cool thing is that you can start putting in changes right now, today. You can start implementing changes and making these small atomic changes that James Clear talks about to get to where you want in the long run. And that's really what Atomic Habits is all about. So with that, I'll conclude this video and say that I think that this is a fantastic book, and I would very highly recommend that you pick it up. Okay, that concludes my review of Atomic Habits by James Clear, both the hardcover and the Audible version. If you'd like to purchase this book, please use my Amazon link below. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks again for watching. As always, I'm Sean Dillman.